Hi, my name is Isabelle Zcar. I've been practicing massage therapy for almost 16 years now. And over the past couple of years, another title has naturally emerged in my work, and that is intuitive energy work. With me today, someone that is very dear to me and who has graciously agreed to join me for this very first video. And let's be honest, this is definitely out of my comfort zone, and I believe hers too. However, I thought that having a conversation with someone I know in the field would make it easier and hopefully more natural. Hopefully. So here she is, former colleague and friend, Marian Sears-Carter. So Marian, hi Marian.
Hi, happy Sunday, Isabel.
You.
And it's a pleasure to be doing this with you. I was a bit nervous too, but whatever, we're having a chat.
Exactly.
So, my name is Marian Sears-Carter. I'm a physiotherapist for 35 years, imagine, and been doing craniosacral therapy and somato-emotional release work for, I think, 17 or 18 years. And I'm still missing Isabel. We used to work together for many years, and it's nice to get together and have a little catch up.
And I'm so grateful. I'm just gonna say right now from the beginning, I'm so grateful for you having being here with me today. Because
Pleasure.
because Marianne, just so you saw from the start, she's been you really helped me out when I was learning craniosacral and then practicing it. So your feedbacks were phenomenal. So thank you. Thank
Mm,
you. And now you're joining me to,
yes, a new adventure.
yes.
Well, okay, so let's start with, when I met you first, you were a massage therapist. Well, you are a massage therapist, and that's what you were doing primarily. And then you took cranial courses, you took fascial courses, you changed a lot of different therapies. So, tell me a little bit about how your work evolved to a more holistic approach. Like, what was your journey?
And yeah, practicing for more than 15 years. So when I started studying, it was like more than 18 years ago. So I took a program in massage therapy in Ottawa at Algonquin, which was a 3-year program. And when you're done with the program, you've accomplished like 2,200 hours, which, you go through anatomy, physiology, pathology, and of course, all the theory about massage therapy that you put in practice into massage lab. And then, yeah, you go and take the province certificate. And there I was, starting with you 15 years ago.
That long.
And after that, and what was interesting is that yes, after those 3 years, is that I remember just even before uh, starting with at the clinic where we met at a line. I already because I always was very curious about also about myofascial release that we have talked. It was taught a little bit in the
Exactly.
college, but then I was finding that I want to learn more. So I started taking a couple of courses in myofascial release. Who knows, maybe to describe a little bit about fascia, which is the connective tissue and which is like all over, when we're always people talking about, oh, how everything is connected. Well, when you talk about fascia, that's definitely something like it's all over, like around surrounding muscle cell, muscle bundles, muscle, groups of muscle, even the lymph, it's all over, like around our organ. And right before starting at Align, I took that first level. And the great thing also, and I'm sure and we'll talk a little bit more as we go with this little discussion, is that how important it is when you get some feedback from some clients. Because I remember the very first week after taking the course, I remember this guy coming in, he wanted me to work on his leg, and I did, Swedish, all that, but I had started with myofascial release with everything that I've learned. And after the session, he mentioned, okay, well, yes, I had some issue with my leg, which is what I talked to you about. But at one point during the treatment, I actually felt the release in my shoulder, which I
Mhm.
had problems with for years, but I just didn't mention because
Mhm.
I've been living with it, but it releases as you were working on my IT band.
Mhm.
So that, that's the beauty of it, but we get so much from clients when
Yeah.
also we're
Yeah.
working. This makes us grow. And anyway, I'm going from one thing to this. So then
Yeah.
kept going with fascial release, took other courses. And then, yes, at one point I did get to cranial sacral, but just before cranial sacral, I actually took uh, Reiki first,
Mhm.
Reiki,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
energy work, um, which strong believer that it did help me with cranial sacral also because
Mhm.
very
Right.
fine tuning,
Yeah.
very, yeah. So, yeah, I'm
Definitely.
taking cranial sacral, which yeah, how would we describe craniosacral therapy, Marian?
That is a big question. How do we describe craniosacral therapy? It's a very subtle, modality. It's a hands-on. It's not a, I mean, there's always energy work in every time you put your hands on a patient, of course, but it's tissue work. You're working again on the fascia. You're working on the, craniosacral uses a lot of the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid to, see if pre and post to see what kind of differences you've made. You're certainly working on the bony structure. I mean, you're really working on all the levels of the body, not just the muscle, but you're going through to the fascia, through to the bony frame, into the cerebrospinal fluid and the lymph. So it's a very complete therapy, I would say. Do you
Yeah,
find? I mean, the movements are subtle, but when you're working in any one place, you are envisioning the entire body, so you can feel the changes in the fascia, in the structure, quite far away from where you're working. So I think for most of us who learned a certain technique, once we get onto craniosacral, it's more powerful in that you can affect things far removed from where you're working. Kind of what you just mentioned with that guy. You were treating his one part of his body, and then you were having a release in the shoulder. So I think craniosacral is very much that. So it's very enjoyable for therapists because you're not just fixing one problem at a time. You've got the whole body underneath your hands, and everything is responding to your touch. Right.
yes,
So I
totally.
don't know if that's a good explanation of
Well,
cranial, but until you
yes,
experience it, it's a hard thing to describe.
yes, and
Mm.
also, when you think, if ever some people are wondering, okay, what is the cranial? Because the cranial sacral system itself is, yes, everything you've mentioned that, because of course it's connecting everything but it encompasses the fascia that surround the vertebral column and your brain.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about the cerebral fluid, that's what nourish the nerve cells that get rid
Yeah.
of toxin and nourish the nerve cells. So if ever that's a thing, if there's some um how should I say, some tension along the spine or along that tissue, the
Mhm.
fascia. And if the system is not functioning the way it should be, or if there's some restriction in some area, well, of course, it's going to impact whatever. If there's an area that is not as fluid, well, whatever nerve is innervating that area, it's going to have an impact on that. So
Yeah.
I think it can be, that's what I'm describing. It's so subtle,
Mhm.
but it can have such a big impact because also we're talking about the nervous system and
Exactly.
which
And I agree with you. I agree with you. I always think no matter what the client comes in with, 50% of it is the nervous system, right? If the nervous system is not, if there's not a lot of give in the dural tissue, if there's not a lot of ease in the nervous system, That's 50% of the shoulder pain, the back pain, the headache. So you always have to deal with the nervous system. I agree. Yeah. And then once you've dealt with that and you've found ease and harmony in that system, what's left? What's left might be a little more structural, a little more specific to
Yes.
what you're working on, right? Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is, right? I think even those of us who have done it for many, many years, it's still fascinating. We're still intrigued every time we put our hands on someone because yeah, it's a beautiful mystery that's rolling out underneath your hands, right? And it's different all the time.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're always evolving. So of course the person, if they're releasing whatever they're releasing on the table,
Mhm.
come they're going to be different from that session to the other. And we too,
Exactly.
as
And
therapists,
us too. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
and then the beauty is also is when you get some feedback
Mhm.
also.
Yes.
And that's why also for me, when we work together, and I also remember my first session also with you.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Gosh, I don't even remember that.
yeah, because you know how, so many with everything. Some clients will be saying, okay, well, what should I be feeling? Or
Mm.
what even with energy, okay, what am I supposed to, that's the brain, that's the
Yeah.
mind thinking, wondering. And I remember me on the table, that's the thing, you were just at the feet at the beginning, doing arcing, which, this is when the body shows you a lot of information. You were just there, you had put your hand, and then all of a sudden I felt all that how should I say that, sort of like a, yeah, sort of like an energy went right from my feet right up. And of
Mm.
course, me not knowing, that's many, many years ago, I was like, it's normal that I felt
What?
it. Like, exactly like every client that does that, it's like, is it normal that I felt that? And then, well, yeah, it was for me. I think that's what you told me. It's like,
Yeah.
well, for you, it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Everybody's different. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's why most of us who do this work get the work done because, the clearer your body is, the clearer your systems are, the more you can feel in the other person, which is kind of an odd thing. I agree. But, maybe it's akin to psychotherapy where, the therapist does years of work before they can treat other people. Well, I think even as a manual therapist, it's important to get the work done because then you understand what it's like to be on the side of the client. You're feeling it from your side. It's a very nice, seamless learning, exploration, right? So I think most of us get the work done regularly. I certainly do, you know.
work, because that's
Well,
what
work,
we
the play, we get the play done. Right? We want to have it done to us just as much as we want to be doing it to other people,
yeah,
right?
because
Keeps
bottom
you in
line,
good shape. It deals with things before they become big problems, which I think is huge, right? If something is just a suggestion of a problem, if you're getting a lot of body work done, it never turns into a problem. You've dealt with it while it's still, a small, whatever, misalignment or a small, maybe even emotional problem, right? Yeah.
yeah, totally. Because of course, when yeah, because you mentioned a little bit also that you practice, which is from Cranio-Sacral also, with Upledger about somato-emotional release. So, because yes, and if we get to, and if I'm going to talk a little bit more about energy work, going backward, uh, working, because there's also a part that is your personal journey also, as far as, yes, as a therapist, but then there's your personal journey. When I started also, when I was working at the beginning, I had an injury,
Mm.
neck
Mm-hmm.
injury. All to say, I had that injury, and when I was working, I would feel it
Mm.
as
Mm-hmm.
I was working, which was not the best, and so I was in pain and trying a different thing. And at one point, I actually I was doing an exchange with another former colleague that we had, Jude, uh,
Mm.
and she, as she was treating my neck during massage at one point, because she was doing the technique that is called EFT, meridian tapping, emotional freedom release. And she was giving me a massage, but then she said, well, hey, I feel that there's something more, that there's more. I was like, and at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm open
Go
to,
for it.
yeah, anything, because I'm tired of feeling this pain when I'm working.
Right.
So yeah, whatever works, I'm open to it.
I'm in. Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I had that session with her, which is,
Mhm.
you're tapping on some meridian points and you're releasing emotion. Well, bottom line, to realize that there was, I cried like a baby on the table because realizing there was actually a lot of anger and um,
Yeah.
so many other emotion. But when you just think about it, and when you think about anger, or when you think about how that feel in your body
Yeah.
when you're feeling it, and most people we don't take the time to just stop and like, oh, how am I feeling? Well, but then when I was thinking of how everything, because it was all related, it was not just the injury itself, it was bigger. There was a lot of other things
Yeah.
involved, which
Yeah.
were not beautiful, which was ugly anyway. So
Hmm.
there was anger related to all that situation, um and mistrust, and anyway. And so then when you think about that, all muscle are attached to bones.
Hmm.
um when I was thinking about the situation, I was in pain. So then, it was a vicious circle. So when I was working, I was feeling the pain. I would be thinking about the thing, which, would make me even more angry, which, what happened in the body? Well, you're tensing up. And so what does that do? So in my case, it was tensing up even more those muscle, which were pulling even more on those vertebrae, which making
Exactly.
more pain. So, which is just, I'm just saying this to give an idea of how these things can have an impact on us without often realizing that it has an
Yeah.
impact. And
Yeah.
so that was one technique that I don't do, but that helped me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
release. And all to say that this is a technique, there's so many other techniques, but energy work and cranial will help with that, to
Yeah.
assist the person to release, because that's the thing, we facilitate
Yeah. Yeah.
so that they can
Yeah. It's
release.
a lot of the times, yeah, and I'm sure you've had this experience as well, where you're working on let's say someone's shoulder, and you just know this is not really physical. There's something here. They're holding something here. And if if it's someone you can, mention that to, once they realize what it is, oh my goodness, the thing takes care of itself immediately. Yes, oh my gosh, yes, I had that fight with my daughter, and it's been giving me pain ever since. And then sometimes they just go on their whole little SCR, unwind on their own. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's right. I have been holding on too hard. Oh yeah, she wants to move out. Oh, I've been worried about. And then they start to list all these things that, in fact, are emotional, that are coordinated in time with this shoulder thing. And then, poof! Literally, by the time you end the session, they're like, "Oh my God, the shoulder is fine." That's what that was. It was that whole event, right? And once it comes into their awareness, well, okay, the body doesn't need to hold it anymore, right? Because the body is very protective of us. The body will, if we're not ready to face something, it'll lock it down. If it's not ready to go there, or it feels that's too far, into something new, it'll hold it. But once you can release these things you're holding, which if you've been holding them for 20 years, they're not even an issue anymore. Something I was holding 20 years ago may have seemed really important then, but irrelevant now, right?
Yeah.
So, but the body is still taking up resources and energy and fascial tightness holding this thing. So when you can prompt them to go into that emotional part, my God, the physical healing is phenomenal and quick, really quick.
Quick. And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
In my example, like it was like night and day after that session.
There you go. Yeah,
Pain in my neck was
yeah,
like
yeah,
something now I still, I will feel a tiny bit of tension, but it's so rare. It has
exactly.
nothing to do.
And it's only actual physical tension. It's not
Yes.
tied into some long-standing whatever. And it's not
Yes.
always long-standing. I mean, some things the body are holding on to for 20 years or 40 years or since childhood, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just that bad conversation you had with the boss or whatever, the boyfriend saying something that struck you. Ooh, and the body clenches, right? Because I find the other thing that the body does is it associates. Somebody says something, it becomes a trigger simply because 10 years ago somebody also said something like that, or 5 years ago, and then these things, these like things stick together and goes into the body. So sometimes when you start to unwind these things, there's so much there. It's not just one incident. It's that high school teacher who made me feel bad, and then it was that my first boss who made me feel bad, and then my sister said something yesterday, and all these three things, because they're similar, are all just tied up in a knot, right? And once you realize, oh, that, okay, I don't need to hold that in my shoulder. Whatever, I'll deal with that up here, or I'll call my sister or whatever. And
Yeah.
now I know what it is. So I
Yeah.
don't have to have it in my body anymore. So
Yeah.
free, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I
And
love somatic emotional work. I could do this from morning till night. Right? Because it's so quick, it's so good, and the person is deeply changed, right? Deeply changed because they realize, oh my God, you know what? I've been holding on to that for how long? And now it's not even important. Who cares? Right? I don't need to, tie up real estate in my body, holding on to some foolishness that was somebody else's issue, right? Not yours.
sometimes it is yours,
Well, sometimes it is yours, but at least now you know.
exactly. And you can let go of it and you can
Yeah,
just say, well,
yeah,
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 that's not,
yeah. Or
that's the,
just admit, yeah, that really upset me. That was really hurtful. Because a lot of times we don't even want to admit that we're hurt by something. Oh, I'm fine. Right? Whereas meanwhile, you know what? I'm so not fine. And now I'm going to lock it into my low back or my neck.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
We're
is,
complicated. Humans are very complicated,
but fascinating.
but fascinating. Yes. And can change like this.
Yeah. Because at the same time, it's like, that's also, then you realize also at one point that, okay, yes, this thing might have hurt me, or, uh, but that doesn't define me. And
Oh.
yeah, so let's release that because you don't know what you're saying to, but we have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
We have to be ready to release, and that's a
Right. Yeah.
part. Also, I would say as
Okay.
far as those kind of when you come to, I don't have to say that if somebody's coming for, because that's all you do now, craniosacral. So somebody that comes to you, either they heard about you or they're looking for something different. And the same thing, that's why also, yes, I am a massage therapist and I still do so. For whoever's listening, they have insurance. Of course, I can do the typical,
Yeah.
but I also integrate, energy work to it because it is so efficient and cranial is efficient. And I would say, and of course, I've had it through that, a couple of years ago. You know, that's where also personally, when yes, I have Reiki one, but I have to say that I don't do the typical energy work. When I say uh, intuitive energy work, at one point, And as you know, because I've worked on you with that, is that my gut feeling was that I needed to start working along the spine. So that's how the intuitive work started. And it just, if, and I think, and it evolved because also it's, yes, I was working along the spine, I was feeling different, but it was very, very subtle. And, what's funny that my hands would be like landing in some areas that were, always very specific, but my gut feeling was like, okay, well, yeah, I need to have Marian on the table to
Yay.
that confirm me what she's feeling and what I'm feeling. And then
Yeah.
at one point also there was another colleague of us that was an acupuncturist that came into the room. My gut feeling was also that, okay, there's some point when I'm landing on, I feel that and I've never studied acupuncture, but my gut feeling was that, okay, my fingers are landing on some meridian
A
point.
point, yeah.
And then sometime, the more it evolved, because, through, weeks and months and years, it has evolved. And, it's not what it was from when it started with
Of course.
you. Uh, but back, coming back also that therapist that is an acupuncture had confirmed to about 80% were
Yeah.
actually meridian points. And also, like maybe 2 months ago, I had an acupuncturist on my table, and
Ah,
she
good.
was receiving, and she was like, "Oh, you're working on my gallbladder meridian now. Oh, working on that one." I was like, "Well, I guess I am."
Uh,
But of course, yes, my fingers were landing on some area, and sometimes they're on meridian, sometimes they're on chakras, which are, for those that are, if some are not aware of those, they're like energy centers in your body.
mhm, mhm.
Very global way of explaining it, but
Right. But you touch on something important there, Isabel, because I feel like for most of us therapists who've been working a long time, when you take many courses in different, different focuses, there's that period, and I'm sure you know this, when you take a course, a new course, something, different, and then there's that little period of integration when you go back to work, and you're like, okay, I had this body of knowledge, and now I've learned, this other thing. How do I? And there's maybe a week where you're a little off balance. You're trying to integrate. But I mean, that is the beauty of having so many therapies at your fingertips, is because it's seamless. Yeah, you could be on an acupuncture meridian. Yes, you could be on an area that's being held that's emotional. Yes, you could be working on specific fascial tissue. Yes, you could be giving a massage to these traps, whatever. It's all of it. I mean, that's the genius, isn't it?
yeah,
That's the genius. You don't have to, well, I've come for a massage and I'm going to stick to that. You're sensing, your hands are sensing, you are deeply into the physical body and to the energy field, and you can deal with whatever needs dealing with. You don't have to choose. you can treat it all.
yes,
It's
exactly.
so it's so rich.
Yes. And I think and to trust, because that's one thing also, because, I think any skills that somebody have,
Yeah.
and as you're saying, at one point, it's like when you get to the level, you really integrate them. But also, I think at one point you need to, um, okay, I've learned all those things, which is amazing. And yes, there's a theory behind all of that of what it can do and what it can, but and then there's that one point also where, because that was that for me also, is when I started, intuitively that I needed to work along the spine, that specific technique, that it was about trusting.
Yeah.
Because you have, that's the thing, we have all those amazing modalities that we learn.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, you have to get to, okay, now I'm just going to trust and let the body show me.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to go where it's calling me
Or
to
I'm
go
led. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
follow it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where, as you're saying, then okay, yes, maybe I could be doing this. And that's the thing, that's the beauty, is that it all get integrates in one, two, because you just trust. and you just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And when you can't trust, you get the feedback, right? Because sometimes you drift off somewhere and then the person says, "Oh my gosh, I meant to tell you that. That's been really sore for the last 4 days." They never told you. But if you trust that that is where you are drawn to and that's where you need to work, then they give you the feedback often that makes you go, "Ah, okay, well, that's why I wandered off there." It's kind of nice, right? To get that get that feedback. It builds your confidence. But again, they're getting more work done than they expected, right? Because you've dealt with some other thing as well, which
yeah,
is amazing, right? Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that trust, and it's so true also, is that also that trust, yes, comes from,
Hmm.
the experience that we have, but also it comes from those feedback, as you're
Yeah,
mentioning,
yeah,
from clients and from
exactly.
meeting colleagues that feels that
Yeah,
are giving
yeah,
you, that are confirming
yeah,
what you're feeling. And
exactly.
and that was one thing also. I remember one time, I was seeing this client for the first time, and he was coming for craniosacral.
Okay.
And I remember, how you were telling me something, when I was working, you work at the cranial base and you can feel a lot of thing, all that tension going along the dura and, feeling along the spine. And yes, you can feel, and you were the one also telling me, oh yeah, well, you were the first also giving me some feedback of what I was feeling. Oh yes, now you're, what I can feel it that, you're around T4, T5, whatever, and all that.
Yeah,
So along the spine, that, from the cranial base, you can feel where there's some restriction going on, and you can
exactly.
really spending a little bit of time there, you can release it. But I remember also that person, which is great. That's the thing, beauty of having feedback from clients, because that it makes you grow, it makes you trust even more in what you're doing and more confident.
Yeah.
And that person, I remember, so there I was, working there and going along, feeling it. And for some odd reason, I just saying this because that's time with that person, my eyes were actually, they were open, but I wasn't, I was feeling, but my eyes were open.
Mm-hmm.
It started saying, "Oh, you're now on my left knee." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I kept working. Still, there I was at the cranial base, at base at the skull. And I went back, "Oh, okay, now you're at, down on my left big toe, and blah, blah, blah." And so every single time, he told me all these feedback and he kept telling me. And then, at the beginning, I was like, "What the hell are you talking about,
Yeah,
dude?
exactly.
I don't
Yeah,
know what you're
yeah.
talking about. I'm along the spine. I don't." But then is where I realized, the more he was telling me these things, this is
Yeah.
when I realized that second before he would tell me, my eyes would have gone
Oh, okay. Oh, that's incredible. Really.
without even having realizing that
Wow.
up until he mentioned it.
Right, 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 right.
Because every time I was like, that's when after a couple of them, that's when I realized, holy, my eyes went there.
Yeah, yeah. Incredible. Wow, that's
So
a good
I
story.
would say, yeah, so what's how connected we are and how we feel these things. And then, yeah,
Mhm.
amazing work. It's
It's
amazing.
amazing work. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're loving it. Right? That's why we're
Yeah.
having a chat. If
It,
someone wants to see you in person, you're in Nova Scotia, you have your clinic set up, you've got everything going. Somebody sees this video and says, I like her. I want to have a session. I want to have an in-person session. So how do they go from there? Do they book online? Do they call you
well,
up?
yeah, well, they can definitely have a nice, I have a website that they can, and also, hopefully, I don't know on what um, social media I will put this on, but anyway,
Mhm.
but they'll be able to find on my website my phone number, and yes, they can book online. Um, if ever you're not too sure, like just book an hour and we'll see from there.
How you go.
Uh,
Yeah.
but often that's, and again, I just want to precise though, if ever, you're curious, but you're comfortable with massage and you still, well, hey, just come in and start with a massage and we'll go from there. But as you were just talking a little bit before that,
Mhm.
I be mixing everything and just go with what your body's
Depends on what the body wants. Yeah. Yeah.
and so that, and of course, but if ever you're a little bit more open to try, more, then of course, I'll be using different modality and I might even, use also light language. Oh, what is this? Well, it's to the best description, I would say, just think about it as sound vibration.
Right.
On
Yeah.
the feeling. I think this is the best way. It's your essence. It's your soul essence light language. But just I would say without going into just it's a sound vibration.
Hmm.
And the body, if we just think about, when we listen to
Hmm.
our favorite music, how do
Yes.
we respond to it? It's so,
Hmm.
and people, and if we, when we get there, I find that it's even more effective because it's sort of like bypass the mental and it really, your body
Hmm.
opens up and
Hmm.
shows.
Hmm.
So that is if you want to try. But yeah, when you,
Yeah. No, I was just gonna jump in and say that when you have done remote sessions with me now that you've moved and you've done light language, it's almost like it's another level of soothingness. Like your body is happy, it's having whatever treatment you're doing. And then this auditory light language, as you say, sound vibration, it's creating just it's almost like another part of your brain is being soothed and calmed, right? Yeah, even though you may not be touching anything, it's just, yeah, it's a very powerful addition, I would say,
yeah,
because, yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's, yeah, it's
Mhm.
cool. That's
Mhm. Mhm.
what it
Yeah.
is.
Well, it's just like
When
another
it's,
sense is engaged, right?
yes.
I mean, normally your ears would not be engaged in a treatment unless you're talking, but now suddenly your ears are engaged in this very different modality is fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I was actually reading long ago. There was this person that been, he's a researcher and he's been doing a lot of sound healing.
Oh yeah, okay.
And he was talking about different modality, but he was saying that actually human voice
Mm.
is not the highest sound vibration
Mm-hmm.
that you can have.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was very fascinating because yes, there's all those different ways with bowls, and I don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but just to give example of
Yeah,
sound,
tuning forks. Yeah.
yes, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and all those. Oh, what I can't remember what the name of those, those big sphere.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what the
Gong.
yes, a gong. Yeah.
So those are different kind of vibration, but
Mm-hmm. Which go right into your body.
yes,
Like when someone does that around you, especially those bowls, you feel it in your physical body. So sound is very much a modality for sure to affect the change in the body. Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't use those things, but I use my voice,
Use your voice. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Which is cool. So
And that
what
and
a
you
remote
that's the
set.
thing. And you actually, you started talking about it, and as far as remote sessions. So that's yeah, I've been starting to do that about a year ago.
Hmm. People have a lot of questions about this, right? I feel like that's really? Can that work remotely? So yeah, talk a little bit about that because I feel like that's a big question for people.
Yeah,
Yeah, they understand if you put your hands on, obviously you're getting a treatment, but Zoom
yeah,
phone call, how does that work? Yeah.
exactly. Okay. And hey, even me, like I'm sure, like even 10 years ago, somebody would have told me that, and I was like, "What?"
Right. You would have been skeptical. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And listen, I could give different um, possibility of how it works, because of course, there's when it comes down also to energy, but there's part of it could be related to our electromagnetic field, uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
our personal electromagnetic field. And that's the thing, the body itself has different, even organs will have different kind of electromagnetic field. And interestingly enough is that your art actually is actually more, uh, the field is bigger than actually your brain.
The brain.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's bigger. Your
Yeah.
heart is bigger. They had feeling, and I was looking on. There was this documentary also in Gaia. I mean, they were saying, yeah, they were actually measuring it. That the electrical field, magnetic field of the Earth is actually you can feel it actually a couple of feet away from the body.
Beyond the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Versus the mind, the brain, it's more closer to the head.
Yeah.
Well, to say, so that could be, but when it comes to that could be some explanation, but then you say, okay, but if they were like, miles away, how do you explain
Yeah.
that?
Exactly.
And so is there the interaction also as us then with the earth that also has an electromagnetic field that's connecting, and then there's a pineal gland that it's been described as our little Wi-Fi. So exactly. So is there that too that is a part of it? Because Reiki, people doing Reiki, they've been doing it for, years and years and years remotely,
Yeah.
either on the phone or, or
Yeah.
just taking an appointment and saying, okay, at that time, if I'm going to be working on you or what. So
Yeah.
there's that. And then I would say, I would add to this, like, how do we explain? Um, how a mother, how many times have we heard, mothers saying, they could feel exactly what their children were,
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
was going on with their child, if there was something happening, if there was a,
Yeah.
they knew
They
that
knew.
they
Hmm.
knew
Hmm.
exactly that they were like miles away or even in a different country.
Across the world. Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
also, even another documentary that, it was, there's still, what's interesting is that there's a lot of research
A lot.
actually as far as the benefit that they can see or measure
Yeah.
the benefit of distant healing.
Hmm.
It has not really went into the mainstream, but the thing mostly is, yes, they can measure the effect, but I
Hmm.
think why it's still not in the mainstream is because they have difficulty explaining the how.
Right. Exactly.
So,
People like explanations.
yes, but
Yeah.
it's not because, hey, I'm sure one day they will
Well,
find,
I feel they're already working on it. I mean,
yes,
that's what quantum physics is. If you can grasp the concept that there is no space and that we have constructed this business of time, then you understand that stuff is not local. Energy is immediate. I mean, that quantum physics thing where, well, and I think that's entered the mainstream where, a particle is either a wave or a particle, depending on the interaction of the person looking at it. So we do understand in a way that, this time and space are not really um, they're not really interrupting what we're doing. We live in that world, so we think, oh well, everything has to be this, but we don't. I mean, you think of all those intention experiments they've done. That woman Taggart, people influencing things at a huge distance, right? And they've done these experiments over and over again. It's clear that it's working, and it's got nothing to do with how we run time and space. So it's coming into the mainstream. But the
yes,
bottom line is it works. We just we haven't, our human brains have not grasped the full explanation for it. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't put it in a way that makes complete sense because these are things that we don't understand very well so far. Yeah.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
it's the how that I've not,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
haven't got the whole, they, have little bits of possibility of
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
as I was describing there, now you were describing it, as far as time and space that doesn't exist, or
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah. Bottom line, as you're saying, it works.
Yeah.
And another little example that
Right.
yeah, another little example that maybe more, how do you explain also? Because I think everybody have that happen to them, once in their life. That you think of somebody,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you get a phone call or you get a text from them
Yep.
as you were thinking of them.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
do you explain that?
Yeah. Or sometimes the phone is ringing and you know who it is, and it's not someone normal like your sister. It's, but somehow you just say, oh my God, that's so and so who lives maybe in another city. I don't know why they're calling me, but I know it's them. And you pick up the phone, you're like, oh my God, I knew it was you. Right? So exactly, we do that all the time. And then we think, oh, well, it's just coincidence.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know.
But bottom line, yes, it
Yeah.
works and it's
Yeah.
quick. Because my
Yeah.
session, like
It's
online,
quick. Yeah. And as you said before, very efficient. I
very
mean,
efficient.
yeah, I do remote work. You do Zoom. I just do remote work where I fix the time with the person. Okay, you're gonna lie down, relax at, 1 o'clock, and I'm gonna I'm gonna work. And yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, when I first played with it many, many years ago, but now I feel so, I mean, I can see the body there. I can see the problems. It's almost like I'm arcing, but remote. And then I'm working on it. But in 3D, when you have your hands on someone, it takes a lot longer to work through something. Whereas when you're working remotely, boom, 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 it's happening, right? And then bottom line is, after I do a remote session, since I don't talk to the person, I send a full report at the end. We started with this, we worked here, then we did this, then blah, 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 blah. I give them the whole thing. And then I ask for their feedback. I mean, they may as well have been in person because everything has been achieved. That yeah, I felt this, I felt that, and then oh, this, it's literally like a live session. And meanwhile, they're on the other side of town. Or sometimes I've treated people in Vancouver. Well, Ontario and Ottawa and Vancouver are very far apart. Same thing. You can, as the therapist, you can see, you can sense, and you can treat, right? And they get the effect.
And
Perfect.
and the body's not in the way, which is
The body, yes.
because that's yeah, what it's sometimes I've been like, okay, well, you're working physically and of course, there's some way, let's say, for example, you have to work on, under the scap, there's trying to get there, not an easy task, trying to get there.
Yes, exactly.
And, you get to a certain degree, but, you still feel that it's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've worked sometime, that's the thing, on remotely where, oh, okay, this is where I am right now. And yeah, just
Yeah, the body is not,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
waiting so you
doesn't
can
matter.
work where
Yeah,
it needs to be work.
exactly.
And I've settled them in a way that it's, it's like their 30-minute session, but in that 30 minute, we talk a little bit to see, okay, more to give, a little bit like, when you're coming in person, I'll take an intake
Of course, yeah.
form. Well, it's not, yeah,
Yeah,
of course, it's not the same thing. And of course, I'm not going to give you any, massage therapy invoice for that because it's remotely, if we're doing remotely.
no, of course, yeah.
But the same thing as we'll have a little bit of a discussion to say, okay, what's going, but it's more, how should I say, it's more just so we can reflect on it
Yes,
afterward. To okay,
exactly.
because you may be telling me this, and same thing in person. You may be telling me that this is what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your body's going to show me something different. And maybe
Yeah,
the thing is that
yes,
the origin of the problem is not necessarily where you're telling me.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
so by working, so I get this feedback, yes, like when we're remotely having a little bit more feedback at the beginning, and then we reflect on it afterward. But it's so quick as
Mhm.
it's usually less, seriously, it can last around 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
I've had a few sessions with you, and yeah, they're usually somewhere. Of course, we get chatting after the session. That takes a while. But the session itself is, and I mean, I can say as someone who's experienced your remote sessions, they are phenomenal. And you're in that, when you have a live session and you come out, you're kind of you're kind of dopey, you'd like to lie down for a bit. It's the exact same feeling. After a remote session, you're a little bit okay, you're like, okay, I need to lie down for a little bit. So how do you explain that? Right? You feel exactly the same as if you had a remote session, a live session. Your body is just like processing, you're in that soft space of and it was remote. So it's the same. It's the same.
it works and
Works.
faster.
It works.
And faster. That's the amazing thing is that it
Yeah.
works. But one big thing I would say that is that you have to be open.
Yeah. Sure.
If you're not, well, I don't think I don't think anybody's gonna, book for that kind of if they're not open to it.
I
But
agree. I
but
agree.
I was
You
just
don't have to understand. Like I'm
no,
saying
no.
open. They don't have to understand exactly what's going on, but they just have to be willing to experience,
Yes.
to be present and experience, and keep the questions till later. Just open, as you say. Yeah, I mean, open doesn't mean, oh, I've read about this, I know about this, I feel I know what she's doing. No, it's just, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to suspend my disbelief and see what my body actually shows, feels like. And then one session, you're going to know, wow, okay, I had a treatment and it was good. And this changed over the next, day, 2 days, three,
Yes. Because that's one thing is it's like, yes, and again, I'm gonna say there's some people that feel a lot and they may be feeling so many things. And there has been some people that no, I've not felt so much,
at
but
the
again,
time.
that's feeling that well-being feeling afterward
Yeah.
that they were feeling.
Yeah.
And I always say also, and same thing with in-person session. It's like I often, especially like when I do the in-person, I like to give a pain scale often to things so that
Okay. Yeah.
I act on it. When I remember to do it, I don't. Sometimes that what's nice about that is that afterward you can
Yeah.
reflect on
That's
it.
some feedback.
Yes, and not just then, but often I would say because, and same thing, also, coming back a little bit with also craniosacral keeps on working afterward. You're working on nervous system keeps.
Exactly. I tell people it's not all in one gulp. 2, 3 days, you're going to be seeing changes. Tonight, it could be something, ooh, tomorrow morning, something different. The next day, a little. So, yeah, several days of effect, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that sometime it could be maybe on that 4 days that
No, well, I mean, anytime up to a week, I would
yeah.
feel
Oh,
like,
look at that. That's
right?
pain in that
Yeah.
shoulder. I don't feel it anymore. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Exactly that. And sometimes they don't even notice, right? 2, 3 days, and suddenly when you see them the second time, they're like, oh, no, no, the shoulder pain disappeared. And you say, well, how long did that take? They can't even remember. They just know that it's gone. Maybe it was the second day, maybe it was the fourth day. But when you see them 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, yeah, that's gone. Right?
or sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, that's true. I had that, eh? Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. That
Which is
last week. Like, yeah, don't we
which
remember?
is which is a good thing though,
It's great. Yeah. No,
You know,
yeah, people say that all the time. Oh yeah, that never came back. No, 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 you took care of that the first time. Like, today I'm feeling blah blah blah. They're on to the next. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right. So hey, I think we've covered hopefully
I
everything.
think so.
And if
I
ever,
hope people know what Isabel does, how Isabel treats, how she has, and I speak from experience, how if you just leave it in her hands, she will address many, many issues, many of which you don't even know you have or that are contributing to problems that you do have. So just, I think we talked about trust. Trust that these hands and this intuition and this knowledge and experience as a therapist is working for you, right? Yeah, on many levels. So yeah, jump in. Jump in.
Thank you so much. And of course, people, if you guys have more questions, just reach out to me either through my website or by phone, and I will be glad to answer more of your questions. And thank you so
Thank you, Isabel. Enjoy the rest of your day. Always a
you.
pleasure to speak to you.
Yes, and we will talk soon. And we'll talk soon. And yeah, you two have a marvelous
Yeah,
Sunday.
it's kind of sunny here. I think it's supposed to be nice, although we had a cold night last night. But I'm going to go out for a walk. Now that we've done this and I'm feeling energized, I'm going out for a walk.
Thank you so much. And I will see
You're welcome.
you.
Until next time.